Welcome to GCSA TV Virtual Live, presented in partnership with Ryan and Steiner, one of our GCSA TV live of the 2021 Virtual Golf Industry Show. I'm joined by David Mellor, Senior Director of Grounds for the Boston Red Sox at Fenway Park. The title of our segment is Managing Sports Turf with David Mellor. But before we start talking sports turf, David, I'd like to talk about you a little bit. Enjoyed getting to know you through looking at books and your website, and you've got quite the background, and I understand you think that you're one of the luckiest men alive.
I do. I'm very blessed. I think I had a mentor named Joe Mooney who told me any day you wake up's a great day. And I was raised by a family who encouraged me to never give up and to reach for my dreams. And my dream growing up was to make it to the majors as a player. My grandfather played in 1902 in the majors. My dream was to follow in his footsteps. And a month after I got out of high school, before I could sign a scholarship to play baseball in college, I was hit by a car. And I walked on crutches for 2.5 years, walked with a cane for 10 months, had to learn how to walk again. And not only was my leg crushed, I thought my dreams were crushed at the time. And my family inspired me to not give up and look at every challenge as a detour and not as a roadblock. And they inspired me to look at each challenge as one base at a time, which is a baseball saying. And I missed 3 years of college, but during that time, I had a lot of time to think about what I wanted to do. And I realized I loved growing up, loved baseball growing up. I took care of people's lawns. I loved science in school. And I realized someone had to take care of a major league field. So once I got clearance to go to college, I went to Ohio State and studied their agronomy program and landscape horticulture. And after much pestering to the Milwaukee Brewers gave me a chance to intern. And that was 36 years ago. I started my major league career.
That's awesome. That's a heck of a story, David. And, our primary audience of this is going to be golf course superintendents, but we do have sports turf people in GCSAA. But, I know as a superintendent for many years, we think about the other side of the industry, sports field. I'm sure superintendents would be very interested to see some of the similarities or differences between the jobs. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, I have the utmost respect for golf course superintendents. I worked at Scioto Country Club, where Jack Nicklaus grew up when I was at Ohio State. I helped at Muirfield for a little bit, and I just have the utmost respect for the golf course industry and the challenges that every superintendent goes through. And so there's a lot of similarities. You want the best playability. Safety and playability is our first priority, as it is yours. We stress attention to detail, and we deal with Mother Nature. So those challenges are, every day we wake up, we're dealing with those challenges. And communication, dealing with greens committees, is very similar, dealing with the managers, the coaches, and dealing with all the events that we have in sports turf is dealing with all of your golfers and your greens committees and keeping people happy. Is communication, teamwork, and coworkers. Man, a huge shout out to all my coworkers.
That's interesting. So David, most superintendents, if they desire to be a host of a U.S. Open or a PGA Championship, their entire career, they might have their golf course, their facility on TV, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, depending on where you're at. Me, never here at my club. But my gosh, you're on TV quite a bit. How do you handle that?
Well, it's an exciting challenge. It's something that, once again, it takes a lot of communication and a lot of teamwork and, organization, planning, and really attention to detail. We try to keep, whether it's game one, whether it's practice, game one of the season, or game 7 of the World Series, we try to take every game as the most important opportunity so that the field plays at its best safety and playability. And then we have fun with aesthetics at the same time. But we want every ball to play true so the athletes' skills can take over, so they don't have to worry about footing or ball bounce or anything like that.
You mentioned aesthetics, and I know there's some history on your striping and things that you've done a little bit. How did that get started?
Well, I grew up taking care of people's lawns, and I think you have one opportunity to make a first impression, whether it's a home lawn, around the clubhouse, fairway approaches, or a corporate green space, I think you have one opportunity to make a first impression. And once again, safety and playability is the first priority for us. We want the field to play true. We change our mowing patterns every 7 to 10 days, so we don't get a grain in the grass, just like you don't want it on your fairway, your putting green, so you don't get any snaking. We don't want that on our field. But, I think whether it's a traditional checkerboard pattern, someone's retirement, you could do your club logo. We've done people's faces. It's only limited by your imagination, and we can do it with water pressure. You can get a stencil. It's creative, and it's a lot of fun. You can get your crew involved, and it's not that hard. You have to mow. You have to do it anyways, so it can be just a lot of fun.
That's great. I think for a novice golf course superintendent or someone new to the industry, they might look at the other side of managing turf, sports turf, as easy. We've already talked about the amount of time you're on TV and the desire to be perfect all the time, but I know that you probably got some long hours as well, don't you?
We do. Whatever it takes, that's what we do. Mother Nature adds to that. The tarps that cover the infield skin, or if it's football tarps, the tarps add to the hours. The tarp is kind of a petri dish if the sun's out for disease. Certainly you're working with fungicides to prevent those. But if the sun's out, not only can you get scorch on your grass, but it's kind of the petri dish underneath there for the microclimate. But also you have the stadium lights and extra innings and rain delays. So you may work 80, 100, 120 hours in a week. So it's really whatever it takes. That's what you do to be successful. And once again, it's a shout out to your crew and your assistants, and it's a lot of teamwork.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I know that, not only you managing the park for baseball, but, other events, concerts, things like that. I mean, how do you do that? How do you rotate from hosting a concert or something special back to the sports turf? Well,
it's a lot of planning, a lot of communication, and continuing education is important with that. The GIS and the GCSA continuing education classes are great. I attend those every year. Looking forward to doing that online soon. I'm proud to be a member of the GCSA. So continuing education, staying up on the latest technology. We're looking forward to using some stadium grow lights, the portable units to help with healing and extending growing. The big events, you hope for the best, you plan for the worst. We may have enough sod on hold at a sod farm to replace an entire outfield if need be. You hope for the best, you plan for the worst. You have to have great vendors on call to help you through those challenging times. So it's a lot of teamwork.
That's great. I certainly see a lot of similarities from managing a golf course, the striping, the water, it's growing grass, but I think there's probably a lot of differences as well. I mean, you've got the infield, the clay, the pitching mound. Can you talk about that? I mean, some of the unique challenges there you deal with.
Yes, like I say, this is my 36th year, and technology with the infield clay, dirt's not just dirt. Now it's an engineered soil, meaning that we build the sand, silt, and clay. And, as you know, there's 5 types of sand. So we pick the types of sand that we want in our infield mix, so that the highest percentage is in the medium range. So what we're trying to achieve is, so it's like a cork board, like a dart board. So the players' cleats go in and out like a dart, so that there's not chunking in the clay, so that it's gives you firm footing, and yet there's a kind of a bounce to it. And you also achieve that with moisture management. And so really technology's come a long way with your infield skins, but then also with your batter's box and mound clay. You want it to be firm so the players' cleats aren't digging in as deep. And we welcome and value the players' input. Once again, that's huge with communication with the coaches, the manager, the players, because we're there to help them achieve what they want, let their skills be the best. And so we welcome that feedback, whether it's constructive criticism or, hey, this is what I like, or this is, can you do this a little bit different? Everybody's a little bit different, so we want to help them achieve what they want.
Yeah, so golf course superintendents, you work at a variety of facility, public, private, et cetera. So we all have different bosses, but you have a lot of bosses. You just mentioned that the expectations of coaches, players, fans. I mean, how do you handle all that?
Well, you wear a lot of hats. You wear a lot of hats, and once again, communication's huge. Teamwork with your crew, your assistants, your bosses, keeping people in the loop, and staying in touch with people, and welcoming that feedback is huge. And once again, staying up on the newest technology. And there's a lot of different ways to do the same thing. Communication with your other colleagues in the industry, finding out how they're doing something, seeing how it fits into your recipe, different challenges with your weather. There's just a lot of different technology out there, whether it comes from moisture management, water management. There's as you more experience you get, you're always learning. I think there's just always something new to learn.
Reminds me of my mentor, Dr. Dewich. The day you stop learning is the day you die. So I commend you for that. So just, real quickly, I'm sure all these years doing this, you have to have a story or two that be entertaining. I'd love to hear just a quick story of something that happened, positive, negative, anything.
Oh my golly. A lot of times they happen with weather. I can remember in Milwaukee, we had an opening day when I worked for the Milwaukee Brewers for 16 years. And I talked to weather at 1:00 in the morning and got a weather forecast for the next day, day game. And I said, is there any chance of snow or rain? And he said, no, you're going to be clear. But he says, it's going to be really cold. You'll be lucky if it gets, 35, it's going to be close to 32. And my daughter had been born around Thanksgiving. I woke up to her crying around 3:00. And I brought her back to my wife, and I looked outside, and it was super bright, and it was just coming down like thunder snow almost. And I called weather, and he goes, "Oops, I thought you knew." And I called my boss, and we called the vice president. He said, if you can get the snow off by 10:00, we'll play. And so my boss and I carpooled into work. My wife called the crew, and by about 9:00, we called in literally 100 temps, some lawn care, landscapers, and by 9:00, basically all the snow was off. I walked into our manager's office, Phil Garner, and said, "Hey, Phil, would you like to walk the field before the team comes out? We've got one little small spot that had a little tire track in it. It's safe and playable." He goes, "You know what, David? Why don't we just look at that tomorrow?" I said, "What do you mean tomorrow?" He goes, "Oh, David, the game was called at like 6:00. Nobody told you?" And I said, "No, nobody told us." And you know what? It snowed again that night, and we ended up with a foot the first day and 10 inches the next day. So it was rehearsal, and all went well.
I tell you, another similarity with golf course superintendents, we're problem solvers. So
There you go.
Thanks for sharing it. And, well, David, thanks for being a part of this. And we also thank Ryan for being a partner with us. And I know I've used quite a few Ryan side cutters in my day. I assume you have. And thanks again to Ryan. And David, I'm going to put it back to you and tell everybody how they can find more about you. I visited your website. Maybe you can tell us that address.
Well, I appreciate that. I want to thank Ryan too. I've used Ryan throughout my 36-year career, and not only can I count on their equipment, but I can count on their people behind the equipment. They've earned my trust and respect, and that's not easily done. And so I'm a big believer in their product and their people. You can find out more about me at David R. Mellor. I had my memoir come out last year. It's called One Base at a Time. I've written a couple books on turf, Lawn Bible, and Picture Perfect if you're interested in how to create mowing patterns. So I'd love to see you. If you're at Fenway sometime, please look me up and we can talk turf.
I know I will, David. So thank you very much again.
I appreciate it. Thank you to the GCSAA too. I'm a big supporter and big fan.